Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. Welcome to this Friday, a little cloudy Friday here in the DC area. But we are delighted to have you here to answer your job search questions. And I'm joined by my colleague, Vern Schellinger, who is an expert networker. And he's actually going to open up with a couple of tips on networking. Vern, would you like to share with us some pearls?
Sure. One of the tips that I would give you is, and I'm just sharing this story with Shira. I had a conversation with a woman recently who said, I love to go to parties, I love to talk to people, but when it comes to networking, I just don't know where to start. Contacts Count, the latest book we had written is called Strategic Connections. And unbeknownst to me, after that phone call, she actually went out and ordered the book. And she called me back and she said, I've read the book and I'm ready to use some of the skills that the book is, indicated in my next networking conversation. And she said, I feel so much more confident than I did, before. And so a couple of the things that she shared with me is, and this is something a lot of people miss, although I don't think as job seekers you miss this, because in the job search process, you're prepared, you're going to talk to somebody, you're thinking about, what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, and, promote yourself and learn about the job and ask questions. But that's one of the things that in general, when people start to meet people, they don't think about what's my agenda? What could I learn from this person so that I could give back to them? What are some of the things that I'm looking for? What are the things that I need in my life right now? What are some of the challenges I'm facing? And how can I communicate that in a way to whoever I'm meeting and people in my network? How can I communicate that in a way that's not boasting, not bragging? And you can do that. It just takes a little bit of practice. And that really begins the giving and taking, the teaching and giving that's so critical to networking and building a relationship. So I encourage you to embrace that mindset of teaching and giving. So let other people, and obviously that's something you're doing in the job search. It's critical in the job search, right? To communicate your expertise and let people know who you are and what you're good at. So.
Do you want to, Vern, do you want to give us an example? I know you have many stories.
Right.
Do you want to share the one about, oh, I'm so sorry, the founder at Contact Count, Cornelia?
Say that again.
Sorry. The story you typically share, and I'm sorry, the founder of Contacts Count.
Okay, Lynn. You mean
Lynn Wayman. So you have a story about she was on a yacht or a training.
Okay, all right, yeah, I can share this. So the competency that we label as communicating your expertise basically says there's opportunities for you to communicate your expertise to others. And a lot of times we simply miss those opportunities, or a lot of people miss those opportunities. So the first opportunity is, the what do you do question. And most people say, I'm the director of training or whatever. I work in healthcare. I'm a CPA. I'm a lawyer. And the what do you do question is an opportunity for you to communicate in 2 sentences, a skill, a talent, and expertise. And the second sentence, an example of how you've used that skill or expertise. So that's the what do you do question. But after you've met the person and you've had the what do you do conversation, the next time you see that person, they don't ask you, what do you do? They ask you, hey, what's new? How have you been? What's going on? And sometimes people have conversations that go nowhere. Hey, Shira, how you doing? It's fine. It's cloudy here in Washington, D.C. You've been working real hard. Yeah, so have I. We ought to get together sometime. And that's the end of the conversation. So when somebody says, what's new? How are you? It's the opportunity to tell a story, a short story, not a 10-minute story, a 1-minute story that, again, is an example of something that communicates to the other person your skills, your talents, or simply communicates something that's going on in your life that you want to share with them. And in some way they can help you. So Lynn's story went something like this. Someone asked her, they said, so Lynn, what's new, what's going on? And Lynn's story, she said, I have to tell you about a really challenging training experience I had last week. I was in Seattle to teach a three-day skills course on negotiating. And when I walked into the hotel room, I was so thrilled to see that there was wall to ceiling windows looking out over the bay. But she could tell she said, I could tell within the first few hours, nobody was looking at me. They were all looking out the windows out at the bay. They wanted to be out on the water. So that night, I negotiated with the boat company that takes people to Victoria and back to have the class on the boat over the next 2 days. We had the class on the boat. The people enjoyed the fact that they were on the water. They worked hard. They had a great learning experience and enjoyed seeing all of the sights that they were able to do while they were on the boat. I didn't say that as well as Lynn said it, but you get the point. In other words, and so based on that, what did you learn about Lynn? Anybody want to put something in the chat?
Or just, you can open your mic. We're small.
Yeah, open your mic.
Very creative, very adaptable.
Right. Yeah. Creative, adaptable, teaches negotiation skills.
Yeah. She took a risk.
She took a risk. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that story, I actually have it written out in a webinar. I'd actually read it. So I did it, almost exactly the way she said it. But the point is, it took it's about 40 seconds. So it doesn't take a long time, and it communicates something to you. And so I'll give you an example of the power of that. And this is a real life example. One of my best friends in Washington, D.C., Sharon Armstrong, introduced me to a colleague that she had worked with early in her career named Jeff. And Jeff and I have met for coffee, breakfast, like every 3 months for the last probably 3 or 4 years. So Jeff said to me one day, he said, so what's new with you? And I said to him, Jeff, I have to tell you about my new client from the World Bank. He's from Kenya, and he grew up in Kenya, college educated in Kenya, started to work in his family businesses and failed miserably. Decided to come to the United States to learn how to manage and lead, got an MBA, and now he's at a senior level of risk management in the World Bank. And his goal is to go back to Kenya and help his family and his work in his family business and create economic opportunities for the Kenyan people. I said, just an incredible, great opportunity for me to work with someone who's, just an outstanding person. Jeff said to me, my best friend Martin grew up in South Africa. He was college educated, failed at business, came to the United States, got educated, and now he's trying to go back to South Africa and have this, to bring about economic development. And Jeff and I looked at each other and I said, think we should get Cello and Martin to talk to one another, which is what we did. And they've actually collaborated and traded information with one another. And there's an example of, if I'd said to Jeff, when he said, what's new? Oh, not much, blah, blah, blah. That whole connection between Martin and Cello would have never happened. And when I look at that as a coach and I have a client, I just added tremendous value to my client by able to connect him. And how did I know that Jeff's best friend had such a similar background to Cello's background? So it's as my Shira just saw, the new logo for Context Counts is the power of human connection. And that's one of many examples that I know of, for both myself and people that I've worked with, that approaching everything from a teaching and giving standpoint can really change your life.
I love that, Vern. And there's actually, I'm not sure if I've shared this with you guys before, but there is a book out there, and it's called, well, it's actually a movement of sorts. It started with a book called The Go-Giver. And The Go-Giver is, really about doing that, about giving of yourself. And I want to share I want to share my screen here.
I was going to say, sure, I read it.
Did you? Did you like it?
It's a really good book.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the original book. Hold on a sec. Here's the original book. They actually have a series of books now that you can get, but they're easy. It's an easy read. And this is the concept. I mean, I looked at the Go Giver a long time ago. But this is the concept here. Creating value, touching lives, building networks, being real, staying open. And they explain here on this page, what this is all about. So it's really a lot of what Vern is talking about. Giving of yourself, adding value to people. Vern talks about kind of the how to do it, right? And why, and this is just another complementary concept. Vern, are you familiar with the Go Giver?
I'm familiar with it, and yeah, I certainly agree. It certainly is lockstep with everything that we teach at Context Count. The one thing that I don't know that the Go Giver, obviously it's all about giving. At Context Count, we really say that while giving is critical, if your network is going to help you've got to teach them about who you are and what you're all about and what you like and what you don't like, what your challenges are, what your goals are. And again, going back to the job search, obviously you're trying to communicate your expertise to every person you talk to, hoping that they will be able to keep you in mind or provide you an opportunity or connect you with someone who then leads you to the next opportunity, the next interview that you go on. So.
And we always talk, and we in job search how important networking is. I mean, we've mentioned this before, that your job search should be mostly about networking, very, very little bit about the job board. Those Indeed and Career Builder and all those job boards, tons of competition, very, 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 very unlikely to get a job through them. Not that you shouldn't apply through them, but manage your expectations. Your job search typically will come to fruition with your network. Vern, anything else you want to share about that?
Another quick example. Some of you may have remembered Noreen, and is Noreen's last name Harrigan?
Hennigan.
Hennigan.
Mm-hmm.
Noreen has been on this call, and she was in the process of starting her own HR recruiting business. And she reached out to me after one of the calls, and she said, Vern, I know you've been in HR for a long time. Just, want to get your thoughts, your advice on, how to build an HR talent recruiting business. So I shared that with her. And so for me, that was simply giving. I was happy to talk to her and share that with her. A week later, Noreen sent me an email and she said, I've been thinking about you. And she said, I need to introduce you to my friend, Jerry. She introduced me to my friend, Jerry. And lo and behold, Jerry and his three partners are involved in a startup that could be very complementary to Context Count. And now we're talking about a partnership or some type of licensing agreement in terms of those two companies. Now, I didn't expect Noreen to do anything. It was one conversation. I helped her. That was the end of it. And yet, again, the power of human connection. She wanted to give. That was a give for her. It was a simple give. Yes. She didn't know that, what the outcomes that were going to take place. She just thought it would be good for Jerry and I to talk.
You never know who you can help. Whenever you are networking, do not make it all about you.
No.
Make it also about the other person. Ask them what their needs are. Think about context that you have. Think about resources that you have. Think about insights maybe you can provide to them, right? Be a giver. Help other people. Do it just to do it, right? It will come back to you. There's no question, but don't do it for that reason, right? Do it because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
People need help. They just do. You need help. They need help. Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of Noreen, she actually has an HR assistant search that she's doing right now. So if anybody knows of an entry-level person who is looking to break into HR, she has an HR assistant role. I will put my I'll put my email here just in case you happen to know of somebody. You never know, right? Friends of friends, You know, they're really open. They're open to all people, of course. So this is especially suited for a recent graduate, but you know, they're open. I think the salary is like 50 to 55, which is pretty good for this role. It's for a patent law firm. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, questions, job search questions.
Can I ask a question, Vern? You were talking about a book that was strategic, and I didn't catch the second word.
The book is called Strategic Connections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can get it on Amazon. Again, it's written by the two founders and two other consultants who work with Contacts Count. And it's written more as how do you network within an organization, because the subtitle is the new face of networking in a collaborative world, because everything is done in collaboration today, right? And all the studies show that, you know, innovative teams, you know, it's all about collaboration. It's all about building trust. So it's written in that vein, but all of the skills and the 8 competencies that are in there, you know, transfer perfectly to a job seeker, to someone who already is employed. And, you know, so and again, it's the book that I mentioned in that first story where Colette just picked it up and started reading it, and she said, "This has helped me." So, you know, and happy to feel free to reach out to me if you get the book and, you know, have questions, or especially if you learn from it and you think it's a great book, let me know.
You know what I'd like to do, but put Go Giving into practice right now. Okay, we're a small group today, so why don't we go around the room and each person share what you're looking for in your job search, right? The kind of role that you're looking for, kind of organization you're pursuing, and let's all brainstorm together and see if we can be go givers to each other and say, hey, have you thought of this? Here's a connection for you. Hey, I know somebody at this kind of organization, that kind of thing, right? So we're small. We couldn't do this when we used to have like 30 or 40 people on this call. I mean, we did a little bit, but not that much. Now let's try it today, okay?
Sure.
So Ty, do you want to start? I'm just going to go around my Zoom room in order of who I see people, okay? So Ty, do you want to go first?
Good morning, everybody. I'm looking for a customer support position or customer service. I'm looking in the association area, government area. I do have a background in pension management and customer service.
Okay. Anybody have an idea for Ty or any questions to ask him?
Ty, what was the last thing you said? You in pensions?
Yeah, pension management, processing pensions, doing customer service for pensions. I work for a government contractor.
No. Okay.
And Ty, you said your expertise was customer service, customer relations. Is that right?
Yes, customer support, customer relations. My background does go back. I spent most of my career in corporate communications.
Okay. Ty, I don't know if your skills transfer to, there are a lot of vendors, consulting companies out there when I was in HR that all, you know, that focus a lot in corporations with 401k programs. You know, there's the big ones, and I'm drawing a blank since I haven't been, you know, I used to be in this world all the time. I'm drawing a blank on some of the big ones, but 401k providers or people that you know, consult with companies, you know, help us, you know, the company basically goes to these consulting agencies, help us manage and run and provide us investment advice on.
You know what? Just something just occurred to me, Ty. I'm so glad we're talking about this. So I just was networking with a guy named Will Seidler, and he is with a brokerage firm, and we had a networking call just the other day. It's funny, and he was saying to me that one of the benefits, but one of the advantages of clients working with his company is the fact that they have a call center. A lot of benefits brokerages don't, and they do. So let me give you his in the chat. Okay, I'm going to put his name here. Yeah. So hold on. Let me put I'm going to put his name, and then I'm going to put Oh, you have my email address, right? So
Yeah.
go ahead and send me an email and I will do an
Okay.
introduction
Thank you.
because you never know.
Okay, I'll send you a separate email outside the chat then.
Yeah. Yes, so just email me
Okay, great.
privately and
Thank-
I'll intro
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you for all your input.
Welcome.
All right.
I guess on this flip side, if we're doing, I don't know if we're going the whole way around the room, but I'm thinking, how can I give back to everybody else now?
Yeah. We're gonna keep going. We are. Everybody's
Okay,
gonna get a
Okay,
chance to say.
so, yeah.
Daniel, you're next on my list here.
Oh, thank you, Shira. So I want to pursue my passion in language education and testing. So I've been very successful in international business development, exceeding revenue goals year after year, and I'm multilingual, multicultural. I lived overseas, even in Kenya. I lived there 6 years, Vern. In
Okay.
Kenya, and I went to South Africa very often.
Yeah.
But I'm multilingual, multicultural, and creative, and I'm trying to find a position in international language testing and assessment. So that's kind of where
Which
what
language?
I'm looking for.
Which languages do you speak?
I'm fluent in Spanish. I used to speak Swahili and Bengali, but I haven't used it in more than 20 years. So I think it's rusted away. I'd have to study it again. But I use Spanish for business overseas all the time. So I'm very fluent in that.
Okay. Have you connected with any of the associations that are in your space?
I mean, I've connected with the typical, like, AAAL, which is the American Association of Applied Linguistics, or TESOL, which is Teaching English as a Second Language.
TESOL is what I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a member of those. Those are big.
Are you more than a member? Are you actively involved?
I was more actively involved when I was employed because I was presenting, I was going networking, doing things like that. And they've gone.
I would highly recommend, especially these days when so many things are virtual, where you could probably network with any of the chapters, right? And get involved. You can attend meetings, you can network with people, you can join a committee, right? You don't have to necessarily be a presenter. In fact, if anything, it's when you get involved on the committee level as a volunteer that you get to know people better and people think of you more for things.
That's true. Good
Right?
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that happens when you volunteer is people actually get to experience and see your skills and abilities, your ability to communicate, your ability to be a team player.
Yeah.
And so much of the job search is you're simply telling people, I'm a great at this, I'm good at this, but there's no evidence, there's no real proof.
Show them.
Right. And so volunteering is just such a great way for people to see you in action, and that builds much more credibility than, even though you might make a very passionate and really well presented conversation with someone. The volunteering is a real plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you the power of those relationships. I mean, I've seen such wonderful things happen between people to this day, I have some colleagues who I used to volunteer with who every once in a while it's like, oh my gosh, hey, how you doing? Like you just bond with those folks, right? And I've had in my own life, because I'm a small business, I've had some of those people become clients just organically, just because we have a relationship. And then one day they're like, hey, Shira, can you help me? I'm like, sure, right? But that's just, it develops out of a genuine connection. So I would highly recommend, because when you're I'll tell you this, Daniel, as a speaker myself, okay, when you are just a speaker, you're a bit removed from the audience, okay? When you volunteer, you're connected with people. It's a relationship, okay? So highly recommend it.
Good point.
Daniel, I was just gonna say that many moons ago, I taught English in Japan, or tried to, for 2 years. And through that program, and subsequently, a bunch of my friends are sort of involved in education and international education. And I don't know about testing so much, but if I give it some more thought, I can try and potentially think of some folks who you might want to talk to. So
you guys
would be great.
Why don't you guys exchange emails and maybe have a one-on-one? Which, by the way, I never really talk about that in this group, but I probably should. You guys should be talking to each other offline, right? Seriously. So please,
our own group.
Do one-on-one meetings, because you never know. Like just the fact that we're even talking here, it took Ty, a couple minutes of talking for me to, oh, right, Will, I wouldn't have even thought of it, had it when not taken a little bit of time. So same thing here. Please put your email, if you feel comfortable, put your emails in the chat box and, connect up with each other, link in with each other. You just never know who knows who. Because the thing is this, when you're networking with somebody, it's not just about you having a bond with that person. It's not about, okay, I'm in testing and Daniel's in testing, and so therefore we have something in common. It's no, just like Dan said, Dan Moss, who just talked, his profession has nothing to do with international testing, and yet he has a friend. Okay, or he happened to have us, right? You don't know. So just please feel free to network. Okay, so with that, Hillary.
Hi, I'm interested in a director of communications role for an association, a management consulting firm, or an agency.
Is your background in any of those?
The communications.
Sorry. Is your industry background in associations or an agency?
I haven't worked in an agency before, but I've worked in associations and management consulting.
Gotcha. Which associations?
The American Cleft Palate Craniofacial Association and an organization called Dialysis Patient Citizens.
Okay, so you've had 2 medical societies or medical groups. Okay, gotcha. Are you, like I said, you guys can't really get involved with it. There, as you may know, there are tons and tons of medical societies out there. There's an organization called AMSI, the American Association of Medical Society Executives. And I actually have several medical society clients and who are actually people who've been involved with that group. If you want to shoot me a note, I can maybe make a connection or two for you, because you just, again, you never know. But I would also recommend that on LinkedIn, and this is for everybody, but Hillary, be thinking about this. Not that you have to stay in the medical society world. Obviously, you didn't even talk about that in your opening, and you're open to agencies and so forth. But still, a lot of employers might find you attractive because, if they're in a medical society and you come from that background, they'll feel kind of connected. On LinkedIn, you may want to try searching for people who are other comms professionals. So director of comms, VP of comms, like put that in, and then put the word medical or medical association or medical society and see who comes up, see who, and then do an all filters tab by industry and put nonprofit organization management. What might happen is you'll find people who are colleagues in those societies, network with them, because oftentimes they hear of opportunities that you wouldn't hear of directly.
Okay.
Okay.
And Hillary, I just put my email in the chat. Send me an email, attach your resume. Shira's familiar with Melissa Ferrari. She used to be a member of this group quite a while ago. She is now with the Association of Preventive Medicine. And her
it's American College of Preventive Medicine, AC.
Preventive Medicine. Okay. And her career was in communications. She started in communications. Actually worked with me at an association when she was like the manager of communications. And throughout her career, she's worked in associations, and now she's at like the chief operating officer level and this is a very small organization, small association. I don't know if they have any openings, but Melissa certainly is connected to a lot of people in association world, a lot of communications people in the association world. And I know Melissa would be, more than willing to help you.
And I presume you're involved or connected with the DC chapter of PRSA?
No, actually I'm not.
Oh, yeah. That's important. Very, very good group. Very important group for you. So it's called NCC PRSA, the National Capital Chapter. And I have a few colleagues actually, who I know who've been involved there. So when you send me your email, mention that the DC chapter of PRSA. I'll hook you up with a couple of folks, a couple of colleagues I know in the PR world, both of which who have their own small businesses, and they're both agencies, but they're small agencies. Okay. Thanks.
Hillary, I was just going to also say, we actually may have chatted about this briefly a while back during sort of after one of the previous calls, but and you were, if I remember correctly, you were sort of a little wavering on whether you wanted to actually continue on the communications path, or there was some hesitancy there. But anyway, I am a former associations guy, not in communications specifically, but I do have friends and former colleagues who are still in that space. So again, I can try and give you a couple names for just informational purposes, things like that might be helpful. So.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, Hillary. All right, Dan.
Good morning, everybody. I am mostly looking in the sort of government relations and advocacy space, sort of lobbying, either in the association or private sector, ideally in the environmental arena for an environmental nonprofit. Separately, on a completely different path, I'm also exploring my last job or opportunities around my last job, which involved travel and sales and African safaris specifically. So that's a much more specialized niche. But anyway, those are the two tracks that I'm pursuing. So.
Yeah, it just occurred to me, have you ever talked to any travel agents?
I've been trying to focus in my particular area. And again, of course, in this COVID world, this is generally it's a terrible time for that. So I mostly had to put that on hold. And until this most recent variant popped up, things were starting to pop back up. And, but it's been kind of tumultuous, that whole arena for the last couple of years, basically. So.
Well, I have a new travel agent in my world. She's lovely. Her name is Janice Yost. Go ahead and Dan, if you email me, I'll make an intro to her.
Thank you.
So Dan, I had a friend who set me up as a travel agent, and I get emails from travel agents all day long. Would you like me to forward some of them to you in case you'd like to meet them?
It certainly can't hurt. So sure, that'd be great.
I don't know them. I get all kinds of offers, going all over the place, but it's because a friend of mine set me up as a travel agent and I never really,
No, sure.
If you'd like some of them, I can send them to you.
It certainly can't hurt, right? So if you don't mind, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Karen.
So I have a background in telecommunications and technology, and I'm looking for a project manager role. I have a background in sales, which I don't wish to do anymore. I am a great project manager. I've been doing it my whole career. And I'm looking for my next opportunity.
What's a good lead for you?
Leads are coming in places I just don't, like government agencies. I have a friend who's working for CACI who is sponsoring me in there, and things that I might not think of. The technology companies I've been looking in, but I haven't had a whole lot of leads. I did have an interview earlier in my thing, and I had 25 leads in common with this lady. And I felt like I should know her because I had 25 people in common off of LinkedIn. So,
well, what kind of job specifically are you looking for?
Project management and technology.
All right, you said that in the beginning. All right. So,
yes.
Are you a PMP?
I do not have my PMP.
Have you thought of getting it?
I have started down that path, and they changed the test after I took the class.
Oh no.
So I found that the information I had, I wasn't going to be able to pass the thing in a month. So I never took it. I do want to say that I have been working for the Board of Elections as a contractor training. And they did call me yesterday, and sometime in the new year, I will probably be doing that if nothing else comes along. And basically, I train people on election equipment. It's like all my other career, it's a weird niche.
Yep.
But for a couple of months, it's not a bad paying job.
Well, if you ever were interested in actually, I don't know why you would be, but to pursue that whole election world, I have a client who is, that is his world. Like that is what he does. And he's an expert in it.
I would not mind working for the Board of Elections, but I have not had much luck, even though, I have been working among them. So,
Okay. Well,
but I can send you a note, Shira, and,
send me a note. Yeah, his name is David. And, I mean, like literally his entire career has been all sort of up in that election space. So,
and the funny part about it is when I was unemployed, they were looking for people to work the elections. So I was volunteering it was a paid position, but I volunteered to work the elections. And that's how I found this position. It was one of the weirder networking things that I've done.
yeah.
So, but you know what? It's a paid job for a while. So
yeah, and people, get into all kinds of interesting careers for all kinds of interesting reasons. So, who's to say that could be another path for you?
Right. So I have enjoyed working the elections. So anyway, get involved.
Right.
Karen, can I ask you a question? So you mentioned khaki. Are you also looking to work there? Are you working there? I didn't understand.
I am looking to work there. I am looking to work closer to home, and I live in Maryland, and I live in the Waldorf area, and they have a job site at National Harbor. I'm looking to not have a 2-hour commute one way.
Work remote.
I like working from home.
Because I had a friend who was working at khaki. He moved on, but he said they were pretty desperate for project managers, but they preferred if they already had in the past some kind of security clearance because of the kind of work khaki does.
I do not have a security clearance, and that has been my whole problem because most of the technical jobs require security clearance.
But if they want you, I mean, they can get it for you. It's usually it depends on the clearance, but usually it's not an issue. But about the PMP, if I can go back to that, because I have a PMP, I'm an MBA too, and there are micro credentials at PMI that you might want to take a look at instead of doing
that's a good idea.
Of doing the full PMP. For example, there's it's one called something like Project Management Pro and Agile, and so it's a short micro credential, but you get the badge which you can put on LinkedIn.
That's a great idea. Because I have been looking right now at classes and things that I feel that I lack, and filling that in since I have extra time now,
Yeah, it will take 10 hours, max probably for you to study for that. It's self-paced online. I think it's like $140 or something includes the test and everything. Yeah.
I will look at that. So I'll put my email address if anybody finds or thinks of anything later. I mean, sometimes when you're on the spot, you don't, but when you're not thinking about it, oh, wow, I thought of that,
Yeah, did everybody put their email address in the chat?
I don't have Hillary's, so.
Okay. All right, well, good. This is very productive. Looks like we should do this again. All right, so let's jump back to job search questions. Anybody have a particular question they'd like to ask?
It's a question that gets asked almost at every interview. It's like, why are you better than the other candidates? And I've answered this question. I am, I'm the best fit for this job. I can't speak of the other. Sometimes I'll say I can't speak of it, but I am the best fit for this job. And then I go into one of my stories that illustrates that. Can somebody shed some light on perspective on that? Is that the right approach, or? So
your ability to be a great fit. I mean, I know they say best fit, right? Who's to say who's the best fit, and who's to say, you don't know your competition. So, but a great fit has to do with your ability to align your background and skills with the job. Now that sounds very simplistic, but I'm saying it with intention, because oftentimes a job seeker will come into an interview being prepared to talk about their skills and background, but the employer's not listening to that. What they're listening to is fit, 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 fit. Do you check our boxes? Are you the unicorn that we have been seeking? And I literally mean that. When I say unicorn, or sometimes we say the purple squirrel. They're looking for the impossible to find person. And it's very, very nuanced. They want someone who has the skills, the background, the industry experience wherever possible. And it's why it's very difficult for employers to find people right now. I mean, it actually has been for a long time, but particularly now, because a lot of job seekers are very particular in what they want. So we're kind of, people are sort of missing each other. The employers are saying, we want you to have been there, done that. A lot of job seekers are saying, well, I've been there, I haven't exactly done that, but I want to do this thing, right? And so people apply for jobs that the employer's like, well, yeah, but you're too risky for us because you haven't proven yourself, right? So your ability to check more boxes and to showcase how you could be a great fit is important. So yesterday I was coaching somebody, and he's an executive, and he's looking, he's up for a CEO role, and it's for a nonprofit. Now he's got a for-profit background, total for-profit background, but it's a very mission-driven. He's a mission-driven guy and has done some mission-driven work. Okay, so they're considering him very strongly. But we actually talked about this very thing. How can he make himself stand out? And I said to him, you know, your opportunity here is to show them that you are an entrepreneurial thinker with a mission-driven heart, okay, to help grow their organization, but also bring in, right, the heart side of things. And to, you know, kind of say to them, look, you know, I get where you guys are coming from, because the board of directors in that case, they're all from corporations, all of them. So I said, relate to them on that level, speak their language, speak corporate, but frame it in a mission-driven way, right? And he got it. It's like, oh, he didn't get the job yet, but he got the concept. And I suggest that to you because there's no such thing. Well, people say there's a perfect fit. There's really no such thing as perfect fit because, you know, everybody's different, everybody's unique. And the employer doesn't even always know what they want. They think they know what they want. They don't always know. So if you can scrub that job description up, down, backwards, and forwards, really, really, really read it. Don't scan it, read it. And then look at your background and say, where can I connect the dots? Whether it's industry, skill, whatever. Now, when I say skills, I'm mostly talking about your hard skills, the functional skills, the things you do, the actual function, like the tasks, you know, so you know, customer service or, you know, current project management, that's what I mean by a hard skill. The soft skills, which employers, yes, they do put them in the description, behavioral skills, you know, organized, strategic, analytical, those kinds of things. Yes, those are very, very important in the interview because they want to know who you are. When it comes to your qualifications, they look at your hard skills. Please know that. I cannot emphasize that to you enough. When they're checking their boxes, they're checking your hard skills and your industry background. But when they're looking for cultural fit, then they're looking at your soft skills. So when you look at a job description, please, 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 please don't think that when you read all those little soft skills, and you say, oh, they're looking for someone strategic and a team player, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's me, as if to say that's what's going to get you the job. No, that is not what they're screening you on first. They're first screening on you. Can you do, have you done, and have you done it for the people that we do it for too, or within our industry? Then and only then, when you get in the interview, are they saying, okay, who are you? Are we going to like working with you? Are you going to be a good fit for our customers, our team, the supervisor, blah, blah, blah. You know, you have the right thinking. First the skills, the hard skills, then the soft skills. Is that helpful, Ty? And by the way, I actually have to pick up a call for a second. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go offline.
Thank you.
Take over.
Yeah, I'll take over. Ty, just one thing to add to what Shira said. You know, when they say, you know, what makes you a great fit for the job, you know, at the end of the interview, if you've done everything that Shira just said, you know, and you had mentioned telling a story, the ideal answer to me would be something along the lines, you know, well, it's clear to me now after all of this information that the major objective, the key thing that's needed in this role is to deliver X, Y, Z. Okay. And, you know, to increase customer satisfaction scores by, you know, X%. And then tell your story about how, you've had that exact experience. And if you can back that up with some kind of statistic or measure that, you're proving to them, this is what you need to do. And here's my story. And I've actually already done it. That's, as Shira said, that's what they're trying to check off. Can you actually do the skill? So in terms of the great fit, try to, answer that question with, my experience, I've actually done exactly what you need to have done. So then the other half of the equation is the cultural fit, which really comes down to, your values, the way you think, and hopefully some of that comes out during the interview as you're answering questions. And if there's things on the website, if they really, promote particular values or have examples of those values that are important to this culture, to this company. If there's anything in your background where during the interview you can give an example of how you've actually used that value, that particular way of approaching problem solving or whatever, and again, it fits with their, what they're looking for. So
Great, thank you.
yeah.
I've asked a version of this before, I think, but can't hurt to ask it again, I guess. I just had a screening interview yesterday, actually, for a really good advocacy position for an environmental group, and had a nice little rapport going with the screening interviewer, and she had a list of 8 questions or so she was reading off of, and I don't know, probably at least 3, maybe it seemed like more, but the majority of them were focused on the one area of the job description that's much more issue specific. I check every other box pretty much for this position in terms of all this other experience, but the part which is important for advocacy that's very issue specific on specific legislation, big landmark legislation, or a specific issue area that I haven't had direct work experience in. I know I check all the other boxes, so I'm never entirely confident or clear, especially when a couple of different questions kept returning to this. And it says it's either, if not required, it's strongly desired with the issue, with that kind of issue background. But at the same time, there's a reason why they reached out to me. So I tried to sort of say, I tried to cover it different ways. I try to highlight my strengths. I try to say, I bring all this other stuff to the table. I do this, plus, I've been in a few different jobs where I've had to get up to speed on new issues and very, very quickly. And that was not in a situation where I was particularly passionate about what I was working on. So I feel like I don't know what the best way of addressing that is, and if I handled it appropriately, or if I felt like I was floundering a little bit. And so I would welcome any advice or suggestions.
Well, anybody else can chime in here if you face that. I think what you said, Dan, was appropriate, though. I mean, if clearly in an interview, and this happens in a number of interviews, there's something that's on the job description, or something that you might check 9 out of 10 boxes, but the 10th box, which maybe is the most important to them, you don't have the specific experience that, and all you can do is give them an indication about how passionate you are about this, how in your past, you faced this similar situation. In XYG job, we had a big reorganization, and I was assigned to this new area. I didn't know anything about it, but within 3 months I was up and running, and here was the accomplishments. Here's the results I was able to achieve there. I'm confident that, I'll be able to do the same thing with this issue. And then again, highlight, as you said, your passion around it, your desire to really make a difference in whatever, obviously it's as you said, and it's an environmental type position or role that you're looking at, and speak to how passionate you are about that particular, that's a strong driver for you, right?
Yeah, that was not a problem. I did not lack for that. So
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we'll
and
see.
now, put on my employer's hat, it depends on how, and you just never know. They at one end of the spectrum, he doesn't have the experience, he's out. At the other end of the spectrum, wow, I really like what he said. He doesn't have the experience, but let's continue in the process here. And I'm assuming they're going to get back to you one way or the other at some point here and tell you,
That's what
move
she said
forward or.
today. So we'll see.
Uh-huh.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
very much.
Any other
You- you-
thoughts on that from anybody else?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, Fern, you took the words out of my mouth. I think that's exactly what you have to do. And I just want to give an example. I did something similar to that years ago when I applied for a job. I didn't have that one box. I had everything else, but I said, I'm a quick learner. Here's an example of when I went into an industry and I picked it up, and then I took a leadership position. And so if you can parlay that into, as Vern said, something that you've done, it's a transferable skill that you went into an area and you learned and you did better. Because I did that. I ended up getting that job because they said, oh, look, he's done it. He doesn't particularly know this one thing, but he's been able to bring it forward. But I think a lot of it is, as Vern said, also it's your competition. We can't control that. You can only control what you say. But sounds like you have a good chance of getting that job.
I appreciate that. I've been led astray before. I've got my hopes up before. So, and again, this is a screening interview. So this is the very beginning of the process.
Very beginning. Yeah.
But they do quickly, apparently. So I'll know one way or the other soon, I think. So.
But you have the passion, and that shows through. The passion, the energy shows through. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, that's true. That I have no problem conveying that at all. So you're right. You're right. So thank you for that.
Other questions?
Question here.
Can I?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Dan, that's okay. We have a chat question here. When pressed on when can you start your employment and organization, does it come across as desperate if you answer immediately? Typically, I tell them that I don't have any major projects going on and that I could start soon. But a lot of places will then press for a specific time frame, which is when I answer with immediately. Should I just say 2 weeks regardless? No, you can just say I'm available. I'm available as soon as possible. That's fine. A lot of job seekers are worried about sounding desperate. That's not how the employer hears it. They hear it like, great, you can start right away. Wow, we need this position filled right away. Great. So don't worry about that. They don't pick up on that emotion. That's not the per se. That's not the issue. Just say, yeah, I'm able to wrap up really quickly, and sure, I could start as soon as Monday or whatever. If you want, if that's really true for you, and if you really want the 2 weeks, that you can certainly say that. But actually, with people who are not currently working, the employer kind of assumes that you're going to be able to start pretty quickly. They're hoping that you can start really quickly, to tell you the truth. So yeah, it's fine. All right, Daniel.
Yeah, sorry. So I have a question that's probably been asked in prior meetings. This is my first meeting with you guys. But how do you deal with a toxic boss? You leave a company. Many people were leaving this company I was working at before because of toxic boss, but it's your last job and people are going to ask for that reference. They're going to say, who did you report to? And it was a toxic CEO where everyone was jumping ship. And I just don't know how to deal with that because sometimes they insist. They say, well, we want to talk to, the person you reported to.
Yeah, that's always pretty tricky. Are you suggesting that this person's not going to give you good reference?
Well, I know for a fact because other people left as well, and they didn't get good references. And so I'm a little worried about that because one person that I know who I worked with who left applied for another job, didn't give this person as a reference, but the company they were applying to still called and found out who it was and got the reference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that can happen. The employers aren't really supposed to do that. They're supposed to use whoever you give them, not just call around. I mean, technically they're supposed to do that. but do you know what this person's going to say about you?
Well, they're usually pretty negative about everyone. No, I don't know exactly. But I left there because she was just too complicated. She was a hard driving CEO that was losing her job, so she was pushing everyone to the max.
Oh,
And
so she's
so
not there anymore?
she is there. She's still hanging on there. Yeah. And so about half the people left, and it became a big problem. And she blamed her problems on the fact people were leaving, not that she was causing people to leave.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Vern, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I find it a little unusual that what you just said, that, the company you're interviewing would pursue without, they pursue references that you didn't give them. And that's, to me, it just seems really unfair to the job seeker, because there are people like that out there in this world that just are nasty people, and they didn't like you, or they want to get back at you, or, so they're just going to say nasty things about you and in the reference check. I don't know how you avoid that, other than, if you become aware of that, then, and you have a chance to talk to this potential employer, I would explain to him exactly what you just said. This was the situation. Now, and so then who do they believe? Do they believe your former boss, or they believe you?
The challenge with that is that you don't ever want to seem like you're throwing your old boss under the bus, right? You don't want to say anything negative per se. So you may want to frame it in a way that says, look, this was a very, and this is actually okay. I mean, to say this is a very demanding CEO, that's okay. I mean, there's no problem with saying that. And as a result, there was not everybody fit with the culture that she created. And we had quite a bit of turnover, and it was a fairly complicated, sort of relationship. And so I'm not sure if she would be the best person to speak to my skills. I could give you her name, but here's a different person who I think would really provide a fuller perspective on my candidacy.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Yeah, I actually did that at an interview where I said, we had different management styles. She would make quick decisions, and I like to look at the decision, think about it, get consensus. And, I said, I'm not a doctor on an operating table where I have to make a decision right away, but we had different styles. And I said, here's the name of another person, director, who you could speak to. I said that, but I didn't end up getting that job, but yeah, she was very toxic with many people, and you don't want to speak negative about someone. So yeah, that's why I was asking the question. I see Hillary put in the chat, it says you could tell them the organization has a policy where they will confirm employment and do not act as references.
If that's the case, you certainly could say that, because actually is the case for a lot of people. Yeah, that's a way to go. If in fact, did they ever tell that to you? Did they ever say that they just verify employment?
No, apparently not. Apparently they don't have that policy.
And Dan, I thought you said in explaining it, they actually picked up the phone on their own and sought out this person.
That was a person who I worked with, who had left as well. What happened was that person we both reported to the CEO, and that person said, when they were in the interview, this is what they told me at least, they were in the interview, they said, oh, I reported to the CEO. So when he gave his reference, he left the CEO off as a reference. And so the person called the CEO and talked to them directly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you prevent that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is what it is. Again, just say, I think I have a better reference for you, someone who knows my work even better, who can provide, again, a more holistic perspective on my.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Well, we're kind of at time, unless there's anyone else who has a separate question.
Just to piggyback on that last question, is there any laws that prevent them from doing that? Any privacy laws from calling a previous employer?
There's no laws that I am aware of. The only thing that, the employers, your employer, the one you used to work for, could be concerned about it is litigation. Meaning that if they give a bad reference and you find that out, you could potentially sue them for libel or slander, or whatever it's called. And that has happened. And so a lot of employers have backed away over the years from giving any kind of reference because they don't want to be sued. So on that side of it, but the new employer, there's not that I know. Vern, is there any laws around that you're aware of?
No, there's no laws. And the other scenario that can happen there is you may be applying for a job at a particular company, and without you even knowing it, the hiring manager, like in the case we just talked about, the hiring manager may have known that former CEO. They may have been in their network somehow, and they may have a connection and they talk, and so that information gets exchanged, and it's just through their network, and there's no way that can be. There's no laws against that. So.
Yeah. All right. So if that's all for today, thanks everybody for coming. And as per usual, I'm going to stick around for a short prayer call for those who want to hang on with me. Otherwise, we will look forward to seeing everyone else next Friday, Lord willing. Okay. Everybody have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. Oh, I saw Hillary, you had another question in there.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Did you want to share that, Hillary?
Yeah, so I had an interview that went well, but when I read reviews on Glassdoor, the recurring themes that came up were that it was a toxic environment and there was a lot of employee turnover. So what's usually the reason why there's a lot of employee turnover at an organization?
It could be any number of things. It could certainly be the number one executive, right? The CEO, other senior leaders, right? Often it is the number one because sometimes they're creating a certain culture. But it could be, somebody else on the senior leadership team. Often that's where it stems from. Sometimes it could be a particular department, but not usually. It normally has to do with personalities. That's when people think of toxic, they think of people, right? That's what often happens. And if there's one person who is, they're really good at their job, but they're kind of a toxic individual, or at least maybe that's not the right word to use, but their personality is not necessarily received very well by others. Okay. The little fish out of water, and the employer continues to let them stay there, or doesn't mitigate it, or right. Then oftentimes that has a ripple effect across the.
So should I just run for the hills then?
Well, Hillary, the other, I mean, were everything you read on Glassdoor, everything was negative?
No, there were some good ones, but a lot of recurring, that it was toxic, and a lot of employee turnover, which to me seems like red flags, but it's like.
When were these written?
I mean, recent.
Oh, recent.
And I do notice a lot of jobs posted for that particular organization.
Well, it could be a sign.
Yeah, it could be a sign. The one thing to, again, recognize about Glassdoor is sometimes those really negative comments are from people who were terminated because they were a really bad employee. But if there's the majority of them are all negative, then yeah, that kind of leans you towards, maybe you do run for the door, or, cross that opportunity off your list. The other way to do that is, again, through networking, see if you can find somebody who did in fact work at that organization and have an actual, conversation with them, face to face, over the phone, Zoom call or whatever. Tell me about your experience there. And then if you hear it from them, a real individual that you're talking to, and they tell you how about toxic it was, and they give you all this, then you can say, okay, check that off my list.
Yeah, and you should do it not at the office. That's the other thing. If you want to get their real opinion, take them out for a coffee or something, or make it more informal so they feel they can actually say something.
All right. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, guys. Look forward to seeing you next week, and feel free to stick around if you'd like the prayer call.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.